incredibile mondo Panda.
Con le sue 4 ruote motrici, la Panda 4x4 va dappertutto.
Panda.
Mette in moto la libertà.
Yes, that's right, the Fiat Panda 4x4. Were you thinking of the Lamborghini LMO02? No, that's not a Defender. That's not even comparable to a Range Rover of the time. I mean, technically, Italy's answer to the Defender was the Iveco Massive, which was produced from 2007 to 2011. But the Defender as we know it originally was built in 1983 as the Land Rover 110, so the Panda has to be the answer. They're both boxes on wheels, right? The Panda 4x4 is a fantastic little car, but we need to talk about the original Panda first. Why did they name it after a little bear from Asia? I actually never knew the answer to that until I sat down to do some more research for this video. But quite simply, the name Panda actually comes from Panda, the Roman goddess of rustics. Also, as a side note, the Worldwide Fund for Nature weren't too keen on the idea of the car being named Panda, supposedly due to concerns that people would think the WWF were working with corporations. However, the then President Prince Philip declared he was very happy with the idea. The Prince then got the Panda, then got itself a very strange world first. The first car to become a check. Fiat wrote a check to the WWF on the bonnet of a Panda. So the Mark I Panda, which was originally named the Type 141, was launched in 1980 as an economical, cheap runaround replacement of the Fiat 126. It had a design brief from the then Fiat CEO Carlo Di Benedetti that asked for literally a container with wheels, which was the same sort of brief for the Renault 4 and the Citroën 2CV, but he specifically asked that the boot was to fit no less than 2 50-litre wine demijohns and a full complement of passengers. If you're not too sure what a demijohn is, just picture a large glass hooch jug. I mean, that's a pretty offensive way to describe a demijohn because hooch and fine wines are literally worlds apart, but I'm sure everybody's seen a hooch jug, with the X's on them for moonshine. So hopefully that helps you picture it without, going to Google. It was designed by no less than, now I'm going to mess this up, Giorgetto Gregario of Ital Design, and it only took them 15 days. In the end, they had a very basic but functional and rustic car that met the design spec given to them, and it became the Panda 45 or the Panda Mark I, and they still seem to be everywhere in Italy today, so definitely a very robust car. Anyway, back to the 4x4. It was launched in 1983, and to make it, Fiat collaborated with Steyr Puch, again forgive the pronunciation, for the four-wheel drive system, and it had a tiny 965cc four-cylinder engine with 48 horsepower, so it was still very good on fuel even with the additional four-wheel drive system, and it was still supposedly able to get an amazing 48 miles per gallon. If anyone actually owns one, please let me know what you actually get, because I very much doubt that. That is imperial miles per gallon, by the way. But that was a big part of the original Panda design spec, to be economical. It could do 0 to 60 in just under 17 seconds, and it could reach a staggering 84 miles an hour. You can actually see the performance for yourselves here, courtesy of the Grand Tour.
Holy crap, come on, car.
That's absolutely staggering acceleration, I think summed up well there by James May. If you're familiar with the episode, a bit later on he comments on his ring piece being in tatters after a few more overtakes, which is hilarious. If you haven't watched the Columbia special by some miracle, please do. Speaking of the 84 mile an hour top speed, I've never actually driven a Panda 4x4, I'd love to, but I've driven Fiestas of the same sort of vintage, and if you get anywhere near the sort of top speed, they shake and they rattle and they really don't want to be alive anymore, much over about 55. I'd imagine they'd be about the same. It's probably not worth trying. If you've tried, let me know. So another interesting point actually is the price, going back to the Defender argument. The best source I could find places a brand new Panda 4x4 on your driveway in 1983 for the equivalent of around £23,000 today, whereas a Land Rover 110 in 1983 would be over £30,000 today, so there's a big plus there. But we do need to talk about the way that Fiat and Steer managed to make this little, economical city runaround go absolutely anywhere. And they did it by sticking to the Panda's principles of simplicity. And it was even simpler for you as the driver to use. You literally pulled the lever as you were going along to engage four-wheel drive. You didn't need to stop. You didn't even need to clutch. There was no transfer box. It was just a clever prop shaft that engaged and disengaged on the gearbox to power the rear wheels. The downside of that is it can only be used at slow speeds. The production of the clutch, the gearbox, and the prop shaft and the rear axle assembly all took place at Steer's factory in Austria, which were then shipped to Fiat's factory for final assembly. The gearbox itself was completely different to the standard Panda gearbox. It had a crawler gear in place of first, much like a lorry or a bus. You would use first or crawl gear going off-road or up steep inclines, but in normal day-to-day driving you would actually pull off in second, which I'm sure took some getting used to for customers, and probably still catches people out who own them to this day, especially at traffic lights. When you're rushed and someone's beeping at you, I can imagine you stick it in crawl and wondering why you're not going anywhere. As well as those changes as well, the body and the suspension was strengthened. There was added cross members to protect the new prop shaft and stiffen the body. There were new covers fitted to protect the sump and the gearbox. The suspension was also raised to ensure a minimum ground clearance of 18 centimeters. I know that doesn't sound a lot, but with it being so short and so narrow, it really doesn't need it. It wasn't going to bottom out anywhere. It wasn't going to beach itself, unless you were really stupid. So it doesn't sound a lot, but it really didn't need it. But just to prove sort of how fantastic these little cars were off-road, they were taken on adventures by a tour operator called Safariland for amateur drivers, and the first event took place in 1985 when 50 Pandas started in Rome. They drove to Tunis, went across the Saharan desert to the Ivory Coast, and then after that literally the floodgates opened. In 1986 Panda 4x4s took on over 4,000 miles of the Australian outback. In 1987, another group of Pandas took on Iceland, literally Iceland. In 1988, there was another event in the Amazon rainforest. In 1989, 50 Pandas took on India, the subcontinent of India. My personal favourite I come across in researching this video was in 1985, when in the spring the Marco Polo expedition, organised by the explorer and television producer Beppe Tenti, travelled the entire length of the Silk Road from Venice to Beijing using 3 Panda 4x4s. That was the first time in history that Western vehicles have ever crossed the Himalayas. Not seen any Defenders do that, eh? Anyway, thank you for watching my video on the fantastic Fiat Panda 4x4. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, please like and subscribe. If you have any personal memories, I would love to hear them, so please leave a comment, and see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.